Hello guys, my name is Destiny and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to go ahead and start working with the Django forms. And in this one, we're going to be adding students just by using this form that we have over here instead of coming over to the database. And trust me, this video is going to be really interesting and educative. So if you want to see more videos like this, do make sure to drop a like on this video and consider subscribing, as it will really mean the world to me. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So there is a couple of ways that we could use to do this. We could either go ahead and create Django forms, or we could actually just, work with the input field and just add in IDs and names to it. And I think that should be the best way of doing it. We can actually do it either way. That way is actually really nice. But I want to do it this way so you guys would learn how to, save Django forms to the back end without actually using, you guys would know how to save forms to the back end without using custom Django forms. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So the first thing we're going to do is come over to the index.html over here, and there is a couple of things you'd want to add into this form. So firstly, it's gonna have a method, but since we'll be using Ajax, I think we don't need to add any type of method or whatever to it. We just need to work with the input fields. So I'm gonna come over here and we need to add in IDs. So we're gonna call the IDs whatever that they've got. So this first one is name, as you guys know. This other one is email, and this last one is what? Major. So major is like maybe they are like computer science or business education, as you also already know. Now the next thing we'd want to do is give this also a name. So I'm gonna give this names, and actually let me take this one out of here and let's put it here, and we're gonna say name. And as you guys already know, this one is name, this one is email, and finally this one is major. Okay, so don't worry, I'm going to be explaining what's going on with the names and the ID stuff when we actually go ahead and start building out the front end after we've written the logic for the back end. So finally, we want to change the type of the button to submit, and we want to give it an ID of, we could say BTN save or button save, you could call it whatever you want. And I think that should be it. Now when we come over here and refresh and we open up the source code, let's look for the form, and as you can see, we've got name, ID, and we've got this BTN thing over here. So everything is working as expected. Now I'm going to go ahead and close out this one. So from here, the next thing that we would want to do is go ahead and work with the Ajax. So I'm going to open this up, and we could actually just create the Ajax down here and everything is going to work fine, or we could just do it outside here. Actually, I'm just going to create it down here in the just below the script over here. Just below here, I'm going to create a new tag and I'm going to call it scripts, and I want to open this up side by side. So this is one, I'm going to open up another one, and let's just put this one in here. Okay, so what do I want to use this for? I want to use this one to get the IDs and the names, and I'm going to code in this other one so we can actually push it the other way like that, so we have some space to work with. Now what do we want to do over here? So in this script, what we simply want to do is say dollar, then we're going to get BTN save. So we called the ID BTN save, take note of that. Now what do we want to do here? We want to simply add an event listener to this, or you could add a click event to it. You could do whatever you want, but this one, take note, we are using jQuery for this. So I'm simply going to say .click, then there's going to be a function over there, and this function is simply going to have, let's console log some of us. Let's say save button is clicked, and hopefully this is going to work. So I'm going to come over here and refresh this and click on this button. Now what do you see? It keeps saying this unconstant, so you say dollar is not defined. Now what's it with that problem over here? This is it. As you can see, it keeps bringing this error. So the first thing I think we need to do is add in jQuery CDN link over here at the top. So I'm just gonna add in this jQuery, and this is what we are looking for. So you can simply go online and search for jQuery CDN, and you're gonna get this. And I think this is jQuery 1.5, and that's not even what I wanted. Let's look for the latest one. So I'm just gonna search jQuery CDN, just like this, and hopefully I should get the latest one. So this is the one I'm looking for over here. I'm just gonna copy this and I'm gonna highlight that and paste it. So hopefully this is gonna fix our error. Now when I refresh this, and I'm gonna get rid of this one over here, as you can see our error is gone. So now I will click on this button. You see it actually brings it up, then it goes out immediately, and that's not what we want. So what we simply want to do is go ahead and add a prevent default. So prevent default is gonna stop our page from refreshing. Now add an e over here, add e.prevent default, and we're simply gonna pass in the parentheses. So take note, this is a parameter. You can call it whatever you want. Now when we refresh this and hit the enroll button, what do you notice? It says save button is clicked. Now I said you could add whatever you want over here. When we refresh this and click, it's not gonna work, and that's because whatever you add in here, that's what you want to add over here. Okay, so now when we refresh again and I click this button, what do you notice? Save button is clicked. But to make things more easy and understandable, I'm just gonna leave it this way. And I can go ahead and add comments for you guys later so you will understand what's going on. So after all this, now the next thing I want to do is go ahead and get whatever the user passes into this name, the full name, the email, and the major. Now how do we do all that? In order to do that, now the first thing we're gonna do is just get down here and we're gonna say we're gonna start from n. We can say let's name be equal to, okay, that's a double equal to, and it's supposed to be 1. Let's name be equal to and we called it name. Hopefully you understand what's going on. Let me show you guys if you don't understand. I'm gonna look for the form again, and from here, as you can see, we called the name for the name, we called the name for the email, and we called the name for the major, as you already know, major. So that's what we're doing here. This name over here is simply this one over here, and this one over here is a variable, which means you can call it whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this into 3 more places, and this one, as you all know already, it's email rather, and as you all know already, this one is major. Okay, so we're gonna change all this to email, we're gonna change this to major. Now we could go ahead and console log all this to see what we are getting. So we can say we can simply log name, and I'm gonna log other ones too. I'm gonna log email, and I'm gonna log major. But now there's gonna be an error if we try refreshing this. So I'm simply gonna come over here and refresh this, and we're gonna hit students. So what do you notice now? We get all this, but there is gonna be a problem. Even if we pass in something in here, let me go ahead and pass in something in there and refresh. We are not getting the name, we are just getting the save button is clicked. We are not getting any name or whatever, and that's because we want to go ahead and get the value. So we're gonna say .val, just like this, and we're gonna say .val, and finally we're gonna say .val, and hopefully that's it. Let's come over here and refresh one more time, and I'm gonna click on that, and as you can see, it's empty because there's nothing in there. So we're gonna fill this up again and hit enroll students. Now what do you notice? We get whatever is in here. Now Remedios, Zamora, blah 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 blah. Now we are getting all this in here. Okay, so it's working as expected. Now the next thing we want to do is go ahead and check if the name is empty. Then we want to go ahead and log something out on the console log. So I'm doing all this, still logging things out instead of creating the main functionality, so you guys would understand everything that's happening behind the hood and all that. So the next thing we want to do is come over here, and we're gonna simply say we want to write a very simple conditional statement. So we're gonna say if, and in JavaScript it's gonna be a parenthesis. Then we're gonna say if name is equal to an empty string, just like that. Then what do we want to do? Let's go ahead and log. We're gonna go ahead and console log enter name, just like that. And we also want to do for the email and for the major. So we're gonna say else if, and we want to check if the email is equal to an empty string. Then we also want to go ahead and log something on the screen. So we're gonna say log, and we want to log enter email, and finally we want to go ahead and check if else if the major is equal to an empty string. So we're gonna say major is equal to an empty string. Then we want to go ahead and finally log enter major, log enter major. Now how about all this isn't met? Then what do we want to do? We want to go ahead and actually say let's just log student created. Okay, so now let me explain what's going on. If the name is equal to an empty string, what does this mean? This means that a user tried passing in nothing into this place, so they didn't pass in anything in here like this. It's equal to empty like this. That means it's an empty string. They want to do enter name and so on and so forth. Else, that means everything was passed in. Then want to do students created. Okay, so I'm gonna fill all this in and I'm gonna hit enroll students. Now what do you notice? It says students created. Now how about if I come over here and I don't pass in anything and I just hit the enroll button? What do you notice? It says enter name, and if I enter a name and hit enroll student, it says enter email. And if I enter the email and hit that, it says enter major, and I need to enter major computer science, and it's gonna say what? Student created. So as you can see, everything is working perfectly well over here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and comment out this console log. I'm also gonna comment out this console log, but I'm not gonna remove it. So for your reference, I'm still gonna just leave it there. Okay, so I'm gonna refresh this. Now finally, when it says students created, we also want to simply go ahead and do this console log that we did over here initially. Now we're gonna do it in here. So I'm just gonna highlight this and I'm gonna paste that down there and then comment it. Okay, so this is the final step before we go ahead and start writing the logic in the back end. So I'm gonna refresh this and I'm gonna fill this in again and hit enroll students. Now as you can see, it says students created, and it's actually putting the name of all the students that's in there. As simple as that. Now the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and start working with the function, and I'm gonna refresh this one more time. Okay, so we're gonna start working with that, and for this, what we can simply do is this. I'm gonna come over to the views.py. This one is gonna be relatively easy, and I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna come over to the views.py. And now what we simply want to do over here is go ahead and define the function that's gonna be saving the data or saving the students. Okay, so we're gonna say something like save students, and we're gonna pass in request in here. And for this one, what we simply want to say is if request.method is equal to post. Now what do we want to do? Firstly, we want to go ahead and get all the name, the name, the email, and the major. Okay, we want to do all that. So how do we do all that? We're simply gonna say name should be equal to request dot post dot get. And what do we want to get? We want to get name, and also we're gonna duplicate this in 3 places, and we're gonna say email request.post.get. We want to get email, but there is something. This isn't supposed to be. I'm gonna go back 1 step, and I'm gonna change this over here to square brackets instead of parentheses. Now I'm gonna pass in email over here, and I'm gonna pass in major over here. So this one is gonna be major, just like that. Now you could go ahead and print all this, so we see what we are getting when we actually run it. So I'm gonna say print name, and alongside I want to print email and major. So I'm gonna say print email, and I also want to print major. Okay, so hopefully I call that major, and this is gonna be major. Okay, so with this now we want to go ahead and save this. We're now getting all this. So what we simply want to say is student should be equal to student.object.create. We can either do this, or we could just say student like this. Then we could say name should be equal to name, email should be equal to email, then major should be equal to major. Don't worry, I'm still going to explain everything that's going on so you guys have a clearer understanding of what we are doing. When we've written the Ajax part to actually do everything for us, then I'm going to explain what's going on. Okay, so when we do all this now, the last thing we want to do is go ahead and we want to save the students. So we're going to say student.save. But if you are using the create method, then you don't want to save any student. It's automatically going to create a student for you. Now finally, we simply want to say return JSON response. Okay, I think we don't have it imported already, so it's going to be import JSON response. And what do we want to pass in there? We could pass in something like we could say, okay, let's go with status. So we could say the status should be saved, or student saved, something like that. Let's say the status should be saved. Okay, now we need to go ahead and import this JSON response at the top, and we're gonna say from Django.http we want to import JSON response, just like that. And now as you can see, this error is gonna go away. Let me see if that's actually what we're importing. Okay, as you can see, it's working perfectly well now. So we need to work with the urls.py, and in the urls.py we simply want to configure the save data or the save students. So we're gonna say save dash student, and this one, remember, we called it save student, and finally, what do you think we're gonna call this? We're gonna call it save student. So this is the URLs. Now the next thing we want to do is simply hop over to the, we simply want to come over to the Ajax that we're writing and do some things over there. But before we go over to Ajax, we want to do some couple things over here. Firstly, remember we have an if statement over here. How about if everything don't work fine, then there is something we still want to do. So we want to go ahead and say something like not saved, just like that. And finally, we want to import the CSRF exempt thing to prevent us from cross-site forgery. So I'm going to say from Django.views.decorators where is that called again? .csrf. Yeah. So we want to import CSRF exempt. We want to import CSRF exempt just like that. So this CSRF exempt that we imported over here, we simply want to add it over here as a decorator. Okay, so we're gonna say add CSRF exempt, and that's it. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is simply hop over to the index.html, and we're gonna come over to this place that we're writing the else. So in this else over here, this is where we want to do most of the functionality. Now in this place, what do we want to go ahead and do? Now we simply want to set something like data. So we're gonna say data, or to even more precise, a lot of people call it my data, and we're gonna pass in name should be equal to name, and actually that's gonna be email should be equal to email, and finally major should be equal to major. Now let's make sure that everything is looking good over here, because it seems like there is an issue somewhere. Let's see. This isn't supposed to be equal to, rather this is supposed to be a colon. I don't know, I keep mistaking JavaScript for Python. Now when we've done this, the next thing we are supposed to do is simply go ahead and we want to simply go ahead and start working with the Ajax. Okay, so we're gonna say $.ajax, and we're gonna pass in this. Now in here there is a couple of things we need to specify. Firstly, we need to specify the URL, so the URL that we'll be using, and this is going to be, I'm going to open up Django URL text like that, and I'm going to pass in save dash data. Is that save dash data or save dash students? Let's see. We're going to come over to the URLs, and as you can see, it's save dash student over here. Now I want to close out some of this tab. It's becoming a whole lot clustered up here, so I'm going to close out all those ones, and we're just going to stick with this. Okay, so now that's the URL that we're going to, and what is the type? So the type is going to be post, and this type post is simply what we defined over here in the views.py that we checked if request.method is equal to post. So that's why we are passing in the type of post here. If this is get, now it's going to throw an error. Okay, now what else do we want to pass in? We also want to pass in the data. So the data, and this is why we defined a variable here and assigned all this to it. Okay, so we're gonna say simply my data, just like that. And finally, we're gonna go ahead and add a success function. So there's gonna be a success, and there's gonna be a function, not function. So that's gonna be a function, and we want to pass in this like that, and we want to simply log. I'm gonna come down here, and I'm gonna simply console log status. Status should be equal to, and we could pass in data in here, and that's because we're going to pass in a data parameter over here. And I think that should be it. Let's go ahead and run our project and see if everything works as expected. Now when we refresh, we are not getting any error, right? Let's look at this. We are not getting any error. I'm going to hit this. It says enter name. Now I'm going to come over here and refresh. This is working as expected. Now all I need to do is enter that and hit that. And I think there is a problem. Now there is an internal server error. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come over to network. So in the network, as you can see over here, we are getting this error, and let's see what it's saying. I actually want to close out this one so I'd have more space. It says method object is not subscriptable. And what is this error? Let's see. Does it point us to anywhere? Let's come over to the views.py. Let's Let's actually look at the terminal one time and see if you're getting any error. I think name request dot method is not subscriptable. Okay, from this I think we should actually, let's make this a parenthesis, and I think I know my why that might be showing up some errors, and I'm gonna put this over here, put one over here, and put that, and let's see if that error gets cleared. Okay, so I'm gonna come over here one more time, refresh this, and let's try filling in the name again, and we're gonna hit enroll student. Okay, so look at this. It says status saved. Now let's come over to the console, and what do you notice? It's not giving out any error. So let's come over here and refresh. Aha, what do you notice? It's now saving to the database. So everything is working perfectly well. Now if we come over here and say something like, let's say we want to add a new student, and this is blah blah blah, then let's say their major is mechanical science. We're gonna say mechanical science. I'm just gonna put an S over there, and we click the enroll student. Now as you can see, it says students created, blah blah blah, and everything is working fine. So I'm gonna come over here one more time and refresh. What do you notice? It's working. So as you can see, everything is working perfectly well, but it's not working in here. It's only gonna show up here when we refresh the page. Okay, but we want it to show asynchronously. We want it to automatically get appended whenever we create it. Okay, so how do we go ahead and achieve that? Now in order to go ahead and achieve that, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna firstly minimize this a bit. I'm gonna come over to the views.py. So I'm gonna locate the views.py, and this is over here already. Now alongside this, I want to get the student data, and I'm gonna be getting that using values. So as you guys know already, we are working with JSON over here, and working with JSON, we need to not actually just get it using the regular Django .all. Remember what we did over here, .all? No, we don't need to do that now. So what we simply need to do is this. Just below the student.save, we want to go ahead and create a new variable, and we're going to call this student, and this one is going to be students.objects.values, or we can actually just say student val, and this should be student.objects.values. Okay, so instead of using .all, we'll be using .values. Now we need to get the student data, and in order to get the student data, we simply need to say student underscore data. Then this should be a list, and we're going to pass in the student val. So what does this mean? Now we define the variable student val. You can call it whatever you want. Now we say student.object. We could either say .all, but .all works when we are working with, raw Django. But this one I want to work with Ajax and JSON, so everything is going to be working asynchronously. Now we say values. Now this value, we simply converted it to a list over here, okay, so that we can now pass it into the JSON response. Okay, now in order to do that, we are now simply going to come over to the JSON response. I'm going to get rid of some of the lines over here. It's becoming, okay, not that, but this one. Now alongside this save, what I simply want to do is this. I'm going to pass in the student underscore data. So I'm going to pass in the student underscore data, just like that. And I think there is an error. So what is going on? Okay, so I think what we're supposed to do is pass in students, then there's gonna be also another student data. Okay, I think this should work now. This should work. Now the next thing we want to do is hop over to our index.html, and we need to work with appending the user to the list over here automatically. Now in order to do that, we are simply gonna come over here. So we're gonna come over here now, or rather we should do this in the success function, yeah, because when it happens we want to still do it in the success function. So in the success function, what we simply want to do is go ahead and get the student's data. So we're gonna say, we could call this whatever you want. We could call this x. So we're gonna say x should be equal to data.student underscore data. So what does this mean? We get the data thing that we passed in over here, and student's data is this one that we've defined in our views.py just a few seconds ago, this one. So now we are getting the student's data in our template over here as a JSON response data, something like that. And now, in order to use this, what we're going to do is this. We are simply going to run a simple if statement and start using it to display the data or the students in the list. Okay, so in order to do this, this is what we're going to do. We're simply going to say if data.status is equal to saved. So this is the status that we've got over here, that's saved. So if data.status is equal to saved, then we want to go ahead and do something like data has been submitted, or data was submitted, something like that. And we're going to go ahead and run a for loop on that data that was submitted successfully, and we're going to display it. Simple as that, no strings attached. So we're going to come over here and we're going to say if, and as you all know, this is what we've got. And in here, that's where we want to write our condition. So we're going to say if data.status is equal to saved. Firstly, we want to go ahead and console log, so we'll make sure that everything is working. We're going to say sending data. Let's say sending data, just like that. I'm going to refresh this one more time, and let's fill this in and enroll students. I'm going to open up the console log. Hopefully there is no error. And let's see, does it show sending data? Now it doesn't show any sending data, but student was actually appended successfully. Let's refresh this. As you can see, it appended that student. I'm going to come over to network. And I'm going to open this up. Okay, as you can see, it's actually getting the student's data. So this is what we wanted. This is exactly what we wanted. As you can see, it's got the student's data of the students that we've got over here. Now, this is what we are going to be passing into the front end or into this place. So in order to do that, now we want to go ahead and actually run a for loop. So to run a for loop, it's quite easy. You already know how to do that. We're going to say for I less than 0, or the first one is for I equal to 0. And we're also going to check for I less than x dot length, for I less than x dot, for I less than x dot length, just like that. And hopefully we're going to go ahead, finally we're going to go ahead and increment I. So then we're going to say I plus plus. Okay, so hopefully this is going to work for I less than x plus x dot length. Why do I keep calling that x plus length? Now finally we want to go ahead and add an output. But this output, firstly, we want to add this output over here at the top. We're going to say let output be equal to an empty string, just like that. I just want you guys to follow along with what's going on, because this one is a little bit complicated, and hopefully you guys are going to understand what's going on. So we're going to say output plus equals, so we get the output that's at the top. Now we say plus equals, then we want to go ahead and append some things to it. So the first one that we've got is tr, and all this is supposed to be in a string. Hopefully you'd know that. Then the first one is tr, and this HTML, so we need to pass it in into an angle bracket. So tr, and what do we have next? We have td. Then I'm going to explain what's going on. Then over here we need a plus. Then we could simply say I dot. For now, let's display the ID. We're gonna later work with the for loop counter. Okay, then we're gonna say plus. Then just down here we're gonna go ahead and end off the td. So I'm gonna create two. I'm gonna say slash td. Then I'm gonna open up another td. So let me explain what's going on before we go ahead and continue, because that's going to be a little bit long. Now, take a close look here. We've got this first TD over here. This is like a table row. So we created a table row asynchronously. And this table row, after a table row, this one over here, the next one is TD. Now, after this TD, take notes, we closed out the TD, then we opened up another TD. So that's what we're doing. Now, this is the first table row. We opened the TD, we closed it, we opened another one. You can as well put us on separate lines and add something like this to the back if you want this to look good, but why not? We could still do it this way. Everything is going to work perfectly well. Now after we do this, then we're simply going to add a plus at the front over here. Then we're going to say x. Then we simply want to add in I dot name, like that. Then over here we're going to add in a plus, and we're going to come down, do the sime thing. I'm going to get back once. I'm gonna we can actually just duplicate this one if you don't want to waste a whole lot of time. I'm gonna say 1 2 in 3 places, just like that. And this one is gonna be an email, and this one is gonna be major. Okay, major. Now I think this is pretty much everything that we want to do. Now the last thing that we would want to do is go ahead and work with the name. And in order, I said name, rather we are supposed to work with the inputs. Okay, and in order to work with the input, this is what we're gonna do. So take a close look. It's kind of complicated for the inputs here, Now that one is gonna be TD, and take notes to open up your angle brackets and all that. And we're gonna open up another TD. Now this one is gonna be plus, or rather we shouldn't add up any plus over here. Now what we need to say is this. I'm not even gonna add up that. So I'm gonna say TD. Then look at this. Now when we have a TD, we don't have any plus. What we just have is inputs. So we could go ahead and copy out this inputs that we've got over here. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna simply paste it in here. And what do you think I'm gonna do to all this? I simply just need to change all this to single quotes so we don't have any error. Come over here, change all this to single quotes, and as you can see, we don't have any error. Now we also need to copy this other one that's down here. I'm going to copy that, copy, and what do you think I'm going to do? I'm just going to paste it over there, and I'm going to change all the quotes to single quotes, just like that. And I think that's going to be it. So I'm going to change it to single quotes. And there is something we also want to add. So we want to add, this one is the edit. So we're going to add btn edit. Now this is the class that we're going to be using to delete. And this one is for the, okay, that one is supposed to be btn. This one is supposed to be btn delete. While this one is going to be, the one that has danger is going to be delete. And the one that has the, wait, does the both have danger? Let's see. One has primary, one has danger. So let's see. This one is the primary, so it's going to be btn edit. So btn edit, simple as that. Now we also want to add in something that has data ssid to it, and data ssid, this is how we're going to do it. Now just over here, or let's say just over here. Now the first thing we want to do is this. So to add data ssid, we simply need to say data dash sid. So this is data dash student id. Then there's going to be an equal to, and after the equal to, what we simply want to have is now a plus. So we're having this plus because we simply want to go ahead and do something to it. But before that, I want to have a quotation mark over here that's going to end off everything. And the next thing we want to do after this plus is simply go ahead and add in the x. So I'm going to say x, then I want to say I dot id, just like that. Okay, so xi dot id, just like that. I want to go ahead and end this off. There's going to be a plus, then we'll end this off over here. Hopefully you guys understand what's going on. And also this data sid thing, we still want to add it to the other button. Now I'm simply going to come over here and just at the end, I'm simply going to add the same thing that we've got over here, and I'm going to close this off just like that. Okay, and everything should be looking or working perfectly well. Now there is one more thing that's going to make us get errors, and this is it. All this major, name, this, all this is supposed to be outside here. Okay, so all this is supposed to be outside here. Dots, name, this one is going to be what? Email, this one is going to be what? Major. Okay, so after that, as you can see, everything is looking really awesome. Now I think that's going to be it. Let's go ahead and test it out, and hopefully everything is going to be working well. Now let's go ahead and see. Okay guys, so we're going to try running this now, and you can see when we run it, as you can see, firstly we are getting an error that says uncut syntax error at this. Now there's a couple things that we need to change. Let's look at this. Firstly, this over here isn't supposed to be a comma. That was a mistake. It was supposed to be a semicolon, just like this. And as you can see, that error will be gone. So let's refresh one more time. And as you can see, the error is gone. So let's try filling this form and enroll students. Now, yeah, I think it actually works, but it's not appending any students over here. Let's come over to the network and see if that's working. As you can see, it's actually saved the students. And if we come over to the database and refresh, You can see it saved new students. Okay, so I'm gonna refresh over here too. There is a new student. Now, what is the problem? I think one of the things we'd want to do is come over here and firstly, if you notice, it doesn't console log this. It doesn't console log the data whenever we actually go ahead. I'm gonna uncomment some of those console logs out so we don't have to see a lot of that on the console. So now when I refresh this and I'm gonna try adding a new student, I'm gonna come over to the console log so that would see what's going on. Now if I hit the create new student, as you can see, it doesn't console log anything. And I think we missed the spelling over here. This is supposed to be success. It's supposed to be double C and not single C. So now when we refresh this one more time and let's fill this in. And if you don't know what this is form filler extension to help you fill out forms quickly. Now as you can see, it's now console log things and it says sending data, blah, blah, blah. It's working. The status is saved. Okay, so with this now, let's see. I'm going to come over here. I want to see something from here. Okay, yeah, status is saved. Data.status, that's what I want to check. So data.status, and I'm gonna add in a new student, and as you can see, it says status is saved. So with that, now let's go ahead and keep working with what we wanna do over here. Now the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and check out all this thoroughly before we go ahead and start appending. Now all this are working perfectly well. So we remember we defined this at the top over here. Let output be equal to this. Let me just get rid of the let. So we just set output to an empty string at the top over there. Now we want to use output to actually append all that we've created to the body. Okay, so firstly, the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and say something like t-body. But before we do that, I want to actually give my t-body an ID called t-body. So we're going to say ID and we're going to call it t-body, just like that. And over here, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to say this and I say hash t body, just like that. Then we need to append. So I'm going to say tbody.html, and what are we appending? We are appending output, just like this. And let's try this out. Hopefully it's going to work. If it doesn't work, we go ahead and start working with other things. And I'm going to save this. And what do you notice? I think it's added in the new user Adam. Let's see. The new user Adam suite got added, but this is undefined. So as you can see, this is showing undefined and the button actually are working. So how do we go ahead and fix all those undefined IDs that are showing over here? Okay, this is it. We are still getting this. We need to say .id, and later on we're gonna see how to use the for loop counter so everything works perfectly well. Now when I fill this form again and hit submit, what do you notice? It's actually working fine, but as you can see, it changes all the whole ID. It doesn't use the for loop counter. Okay, so I actually want to see how to use for loop counter in jQuery, and let's actually go ahead and check out how to do that. Okay, I think this is what we could do over here. We could simply say I. So let's just try that. And this is I will pass in over here. So I'm gonna come over here and refresh. Now we get all these things. Now I'm gonna just come over here and say that. Okay, what do you notice? It says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. I'm gonna add in a new student. Okay, what do you notice? It's working. But there is a problem now. It starts from 0, and that's not what I want. So I think we're gonna fix that later on. But for now, as you can see, this is working perfectly well. Now to the very final step, I want to clear out the form whenever we hit the enroll student, so that we're gonna be able to add another student and not refresh the page automatically. So in order to clear it, what we simply want to do is this. We are just gonna get the form. So I'm gonna say $, and I'm gonna get form, just like that. And what do we want to do? We want to add in index of 0, and we are simply gonna reset the form. .reset, just like that. So let's try it one more time, and hopefully that's gonna work well. And when we enroll, okay, as you can see, the form doesn't get reset. What's the problem? Let's look at it again. So what's the best thing that we could do? I think we need to just give this form a class or an ID. You could give it whatever you want, a class or ID. Everyone is going to work perfectly well. And I'm just going to call it form. And over here, let's just pass in hash, and I'm going to pass in the 0 over there. That's index 0. And now when we come over here and fill in this form for the last time and hit enroll student, what do you notice? students get added and the form gets reset. So that's working perfectly well. It's so sweet. Now I think that's everything that we're gonna be doing. I'm just gonna go ahead and clear out my database, and here I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm sure. Come over here, and I'm gonna refresh this. So if there are no students yet, because there's some like no students added yet, so I want to come over here and say enroll students, and what do you notice? It enrolls the students with the button and all that and the serial number. So we're gonna be fixing this maybe in next video. This video is getting a little bit long. I just want to end it off over here, and hopefully you guys understood everything that went on. It's really easy, and if you're having any issues, make sure to drop into the comment section below. Do not hesitate to do that. Any line, just call a timestamp. Any line that you don't understand, I'll be more than pleased to explain it for y'all. So in the meantime, do make sure to drop a like, consider subscribing, as it would mean the world to me. And if you've got a couple dollars spare, do make sure to check out my YouTube membership. That's really gonna be helpful and help me create more free contents for you guys. I hope I'll see you guys in the next video. For now, mad love, peace out.